want? A choice. A chance.
There's your chance. Take it.
Grateful.
The day will come when you won't be.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Back again with another throwback review. This for season 3, episode 15, entitled "The Sorrowful Life." Episode starts out. Rick tells Daryl about the governor's offer. Daryl and Herschel try to dissuade Rick from giving up Michonne, but Rick insists it's their best shot at saving lives. "It just ain't us, man," says Daryl. Rick then enlists Merle's help. Merle warns that the governor won't kill Michonne, just torture her. "You're as cold as ice, Officer Friendly," Merle says, advising Rick to use wire to bind her. Daryl, Glenn, Michonne, and Beth work together to lay spike strips at the prison gate and prepare for the impending attack. Walkers are killed at the fence. After they drive back up to the cell block, Michonne tells Rick of the plan, which she has conceived. "We don't have to win, we just have to make their getting us more trouble than it's worth." In the cell block, Carol asks Merle if he's on their team. "It's time to pick a damn side," she says while putting Judith in her playpen. Merle responds by saying he's only here for his brother, to which Carol responds, "Yeah, well, he's with us." Daryl tells Glenn that Merle will find a way to make up for his cruelty at Woodbury, but asks for some forgiveness. Glenn points out that Merle was responsible for the governor's assault on Maggie, and he can't forgive him for hurting the woman he loves, indirectly or not. Daryl then finds Merle in the boiler room. Merle reflects on how the group despises him, but points out that Rick is no better for agreeing to the governor's deal. "Maybe these people need somebody like me around to do their dirty work," Merle says. "I just want my brother back," Daryl replies. While Herschel, Maggie, and Beth pray inside, Rick finds a cable outside to bind Michonne. Laurie appears on the catwalk. "You're not there," he mutters, cradling his head. When he looks up, Laurie is still there. He throws the cable away and leaves. Rick enters the cell block where they are praying and pulls Herschel aside. He declares the deal is off. Meanwhile, Merle takes Michonne into the tombs under the pretense of clearing out walkers. He then knocks her unconscious, drags her to the boiler room, and binds her wrist. A while later, Merle walks Michonne down an abandoned road and explains the governor's proposition. He says Rick would never have gone through with it. "But not you," she says. Rick and Daryl search for Merle and Michonne, concluding that Merle abducted her. Daryl leaves to track them down. Meanwhile, Merle tells Michonne that this is the chance to save Daryl and the others. Michonne notes that Merle has a conscience, but Merle disagrees. "I've killed 16 men since all this went down," he says, although it is obvious that was all since he met the governor and then brainwashed him. Back at the prison, Glenn asks Herschel for Maggie's hand in marriage. Herschel gives his blessing. At an abandoned motel, Merle tethers Michonne to a post while he hotwires a car. He accidentally triggers the alarm, attracting walkers. While he is trying to turn it off, a walker attacks him. He was almost bitten but managed to kill the walker. Merle and Michonne jump in the car and drive off. In the car, Michonne tells Merle that the prison group would have eventually welcomed him, but he chose to be an outsider. He calls her an outsider too. "Maybe," she says, "but once the governor is done with me, at least I won't have to live with myself." At the perimeter of the prison, Glenn scans a group of walkers at the fence. He finds a female and cuts off 2 of her fingers. Back in the car, Michonne wonders why Merle wants to help the governor when he's the one who turned Merle into a killer. "You know we can go back," she says. Merle stops the car, cuts her binds, and sets her free. "I got something I gotta do," he says before he drives off alone. Daryl later runs into her on the way back to the prison, who tells him Merle let her go. He tells her not to send help and continues on after Merle. In the car, Merle drinks a bottle of whiskey as walkers mob the vehicle. He blasts loud hard rock on the stereo and slowly drives down the road, letting walkers gather in his wake. He arrives at the governor's meeting spot and rolls out of the moving car with a rifle in hand before stealthily taking shelter in a nearby building. The governor and his men investigate the source of the blaring music. They soon find it coming from the car, which has now managed to roll into the middle of the feed store's courtyard. Dozens of walkers clinging around it and lurking towards it from behind. They begin shooting at the oncoming threat, becoming confused and unorderly as they do so, and the numbers of the undead begin to advance on their positions. Amid the gun blast, Merle finds a decent sniper position in the shadows and quickly and unpredictably opens fire on the governor's men, while they are forced to waste their valuable ammunition and attention on the advancing walkers, leaving them downed and helpless against the approaching walkers. After losing at least 7 of his men, the governor steps outside and gun in hand to angrily deal with the infestation himself. Merle aims at the now vulnerable governor, but when Alan's son Ben gets in the way at the last second while providing cover fire, Merle accidentally shoots and kills Ben instead. The remaining gunners gradually begin to catch on to Merle's plan, and Martinez orders them to check over by the entrance to the building and Merle is shooting from. A walker attacks Merle from behind, who he stabs and tackles to the ground, and they tumble outside where he is discovered. Martinez and the surviving Woodbury soldiers start to kick and immobilize Merle while he's down until the governor runs up and carries him back into the building, ordering they leave him to me. The governor viciously and barbarically beats and cripples Merle, kicking him multiple times, breaking his right arm, snapping his back against the table, and bites off his fingers before headbutting and choking him shortly. He lets him go and then begins pacing backwards. He said, "I ain't gonna beg. I ain't begging you," Merle says weakly, mimicking the words he said when he was praying to God when he was trapped on the rooftop in Atlanta. The governor responds with a heartless "no" and raises his gun and shoots him off screen just as the camera cuts to black. At the prison, Glenn finds Maggie alone and places an engagement ring in her hand and that he had managed to take from the walker outside the prison fences. She smiles and accepts the token of affection, and they kiss, now a married couple. Rick gathers the group and discloses the governor's offer. "I couldn't sacrifice one of us for the greater good because we are the greater good," he says. "I'm not your governor. We choose to go or we choose to stay. We stick together." He concedes that he doesn't want to be the only person making decisions for the group anymore. From the guard tower, Rick watches Michonne making her way back to the prison, smiling to see that Merle had done what he had hoped for by himself. At the feed store, Daryl scouts the area and kills a few spare walkers before coming across one with a bullet wound in its heart. Merle. Daryl breaks down in tears at the sight of his ruined brother. When Merle tries to attack, Daryl tearfully stabs him in the head multiple times out of rage before falling to the ground, sobbing at the loss of the only family member he had left. The episode ends with him staring in misery at the now finished corpse of his brother. So yeah, guys, it's a pretty emotional episode. Merle going out the right way, kind of sacrificing himself, but taking out a bunch of the governor's men, and sad moment there at the end where Daryl had to put his brother down and everything. But all in all, a very, very good episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it whenever I watched it the first time. So yeah, that was the review for The Sorrowful Life, Season 3, Episode 15, and I'll be back soon with another video.
It's not fancy yet.